Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey guys, welcome to the Elevate Podcast. We are winding down on 2023. It is now December 20th. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm Robert Kaelin.
Mike Newman with you here again, and December brings around all kinds of things, and I think that our topic today is one that's really relevant as we roll into, and maybe you probably wanted some of what we're going to talk about last week at that Christmas party that you ran into that person that was difficult. But we're going to talk about today about, how do you have a difficult conversation. Some of the work that I've studied in the past is about fierce conversations with Susan Scott. Some great material there, but also as we go into the holiday season and we come up on Christmas things. Again, this is Mike putting Robert on the spot because I didn't talk to you about this, but is there like one of these that you just go, God, I hope they don't show up this year?
So every person who's listening to this podcast, every person who's not listening to this podcast can relate to having people in your life who, how do you say, they're prickly like a porcupine, makes you not want to hug them. And it's really important for us as leaders, no matter what we're doing, whether it's in business or it's family, to learn how to have crucial conversations, difficult conversations, fierce conversations that point people to something bigger, that they matter. Personality conflicts are going to come, but people matter. And I love our topic for today, especially with, Christmas coming around the corner. And again, like Mike was saying, holiday parties and stuff, because if we're honest, everyone who walks into the Christmas party, whether it's with family or coworkers, is struggling with something, right? There's more going on in our lives than we would admit to even people who we're close with. And operating with that mentality gives us some grace to be able to have some of these conversations with people and point them to something bigger. So,
yeah, Robert,
Mike, I want to answer your question really quick. So to answer your question that put me on the spot is yes, 100%. There are difficult conversations that need to be had. So,
well, and it's sometimes, for me, I want to avoid those people,
Yeah.
I want to steer clear of it or figure out I'll go in the other room where there's a different crowd. If that one person that I know from previous conversations that they just are that complainer all the time, or maybe they're the person who's always the contrary and wants to, you say it's, a nice day outside, and they say, yeah, but it's supposed to rain tomorrow. Or, I mean, they always have some comeback to it, or it's we're running into 2024 as an election season. People are going to start geared up over this. I mean, we saw what happened in 2020 where all of a sudden you couldn't have a conversation without somebody, being offended. I heard this guy the other day go, what's wrong with being offended? I get offended all the time, but I don't lose my cookies over it,
Yeah.
And so we've got to learn how to have these conversations with people, whether they're the complainer or the contrarian or the political antagonist, or they're the person that, they're always like this on their phone because they don't want to talk to anybody. As Robert said, there are people who have issues going on in their life, and sometimes their way of getting connected to people is to be a complainer or to be the contrarian or to bring up a controversial topic or to hide behind their phone. And so I think as a leader, as a evolving person, that you're always trying to be better at it, is doing what Robert said of, and you didn't say this exactly, but you said people have other things going on in their life. So be a listener a little bit, I think that oftentimes that we're preparing our answer way before a person's done even saying what's going on. I've had to.
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that's not taught in school is communication. really effective, good communication. It's not really something that we talk about blatantly. It's something that after you get out of high school and you start having relationships with people who are different than you start going, wait a second, what's going on here? Why am I having issues with this person? How can I work together with this person? When you're young and immature, you avoid those people. You do whatever you can. Me, when I was in high school, I switched high schools to get out of a presentation. It's just the mentality that you have when you're a kid, and I think learning how to have crucial, fierce, loving conversations is so important for us in today's age. And so I love that we're talking about this. I just wanted to say that really quick, Mike, that this is really all about communication and connection, and something we don't really learn. So
Right.
excited to dive in.
And so sometimes we have to figure out and move away from the holiday season and all that, but move into a business situation of you're trying to get your team moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So Susan Scott, in the book I referenced, of Fierce Conversations, she's got a statement that there's 4 conversations that really need to happen. Um, excuse me. uh, Inside of our organizations. And those are our team conversations uh, with your team. They're coaching conversations, either with a team or an individual. They're delegation conversations that need to happen. And then there are what she calls confrontation conversations that need to happen. So, Robert, when you and I were talking about this earlier, you had a little bit different descriptors to define those that might help our listeners with this
Yeah.
or our viewers with this. So talk a little bit about what team conversation meant to you when I brought that up.
Yeah. When I was thinking about team conversations, it's really like casting vision for the team, sharing the big picture goals, a 30,000-foot view. You're gathering the team together. You're also going over status and saying, hey, we're in this project. This is where we're at right now. This is where we're trying to go. What's our roadblocks? What's keeping us from moving forward? Right. So it's maybe the overarching bigger picture vision pieces is those team conversations.
And it's really, I think, gets into, having these conversations that you're able to have and question and ask questions about in, as Susan Scott would say, in a frictionless environment. So there's not a lot of friction about it. That you can lay out the vision, you can ask for clarity, you can clarify what the goals are. In a previous episode, we were talking about what are your goals for 2024, and we're talking about them more individually. But what are your goals for your organization? And are you talking about them? Are you getting buy-in? Are you looking at them and solving problems and looking for the opportunities? And that's really the part about the team conversations that took place. When we talk about coaching conversations, it's about engaging individuals in teams. So, Robert, in that element, what do you see as being a coaching conversation that might be taking place? How would you define that?
Yeah, I would say the coaching conversations are really helping people evaluate themselves, personal development type conversations, helping them and assisting them in where they are right now and where they're trying to get. In the broader conversation of the team, their individual piece of that. Who they need to talk to, maybe what their personal roadblocks are moving forward with their project. So I think of it more of like, how can I help you fulfill your role and support you and navigate the roadblocks alongside of you? But it's really ultimately your responsibility.
Yeah. So we talked earlier about creating clarity for the team. This is about creating clarity for the individual.
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
Providing them ways to make sure they understand and improve their understanding about it. So I may have laid out this much, but that person, their responsibilities are only this much. So in that is in clarifying what their role is, how they're contributing, the professional development maybe that is involved along the way. I believe that anytime that we are looking at helping a person grow, they need to understand what we see that they don't see. And that's where that individual coaching conversation comes in. And it'll really help projects move forward. You'll be able to advance things quicker because there's greater understanding. Now, some leaders would say, I don't have time for this. Okay. And my statement would be, you don't have time not to do this, because every time you stumble is because somebody didn't do what you thought they knew they were supposed to do.
So true. And if you are struggling with that particular subject, go back and listen to our Elevate podcast titled Delegation or Abdication.
Yeah. Because I think that moves us into this part of the third component that she says are crucial for organizations to have, is that delegation conversation. So all of us can think of a time we gave somebody a task to do and it came out different than what we had envisioned in our own mind. And sometimes we get into the blame thing. Well, Robert just didn't do what I told him to do. And instead, as a leader, we need to turn that around and go, what is it that I should have communicated? What's my ownership in this? Why didn't Robert understand what it was that we wanted to do? So in this delegation conversation, Robert, how would you define that one?
Yeah, I thought of delegating really being about roles and responsibilities, but also around being so unbelievably clear with what those roles and responsibilities are and what the expectations are at the end of it. This would probably be one of my personal struggles. If I'm being honest, I look back at my life, my career, and so many times I have assumed that someone understood because I said it. I can't remember who quoted that or who made that quote of, the biggest problem in communications is assuming that it happened. And that's probably my biggest weakness, is assuming that it happened and saying, hey, well, I said it. And so you should have gotten it. You should have heard it the way that I said it.
Well, sometimes we think of delegation also as, I just need to get this garbage off my plate. I don't have time to handle this. Whereas in delegation, what we really want to be doing is helping the person we delegate it to understand not only the key parts of that are important for them in achieving whatever the goal of that project is, what are the action plans and those types of things to go with it. If we just go, here's this pile of stuff, I don't have time for this, you need to figure this out, that's dumping garbage on them. Things that you don't want to handle. Here's this pile of things that I need you to do. This one is about, and here's why this is important. This one is about, I don't need this done for another month, but this is why this is important. That you've actually thought through, because then that's where the professional development takes place. Then
I'm going to add to you real quick. That's really sharing the why behind the what. When you share the why behind the what, that's when people start to take ownership, because they start to understand and see how they're playing into the bigger picture and the purpose that they have in their job.
Yeah, I think when we change delegation into a learning opportunity for the person, if you're going to grow in this organization, this is something you need to learn how to do. That's why I'm giving it to you, so that you can do it. Then we do that correctly, and we have a plan, like we were talking about in a previous session about follow-up. We have a follow-up plan that we just don't give them that pile of stuff and then check in on them 2 months later and what'd you get done. That we've got some way of checking back, making sure there's clarity on it, making sure they understand, and making sure that we are clear about the timelines. I have a person I work with that I send things to review, and I've learned that I need to be, they'd say, when do you want this? And I'd say, next couple of weeks is fine. Then I would get it on day 14. When really I was just trying to give them some grace and I wanted it done sooner. Now with that person, because I know what they have, hey, can you review this to me and have it back to me by Friday? Yes or no. Yeah, I mean, that's the way they respond. Yeah, I can do that, or nope, doesn't work. And this person, we work together long enough, they say, how about if I have it to you on Wednesday next week? And then, that'll work for me. So knowing timelines is really key when you're asking for feedback or on a project, you're asking or you're delegating a project and asking somebody else to do it, is being clear about what it is that you want them to achieve for the organization.
Yeah, that's good. Somebody's
Amazon
not happy.
just came by.
Oh, 'tis the
Tis the
season.
season. I was hoping we would be able to get through the Christmas special here without the dog barking, but
It's all good. Well, leads us right into the next conversation about confrontation.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was
Mike.
going to say confrontation then being the final one, which is the one that's most difficult, I think, for all of us. There are a few people in the world that enjoy confrontation. There are some, but most of us don't enjoy that confrontation. And so when you're...
They usually end up becoming attorneys.
Yeah, or trial attorneys, yeah. There's other attorneys that just do the work of everything that probably don't enjoy confrontation either, but those that like to be in the courtroom. So in that, besides being the defender of things, what do you see as being the confrontation conversation? What's that helping an organization, an individual leader with?
Yeah, when I think of confrontation, I don't always see it as a bad thing. Confrontation conversations are really about course correction. So we can take the approach of, like we were talking about earlier, I'm trying to get this off my plate. I need them to do this. They're not doing what I need to do, and I'm frustrated. Or we take the approach of, I haven't done my job well. I need to go through the 4 steps here, share the vision, individual coaching conversations, delegate well, and then the confrontation piece is really about course correction. And so I can lovingly show up to that person, understanding their personality, how they're wired, how they work best, and say, hey, look, when we were talking earlier, we were talking about this, this, and this. I want to make sure that we understand what we're really trying to do is X, Y, or Z, right? And this could be with behavior, this could be with attitude, it could be interpersonal relationships with team members. Hey, I noticed that you got really frustrated in that meeting. Let's talk about that. Where did that come from? So,
and I think when, behind all of this that we've talked about is the need to have a relationship with the person. And so that's one of the assumptions I think that oftentimes gets overlooked, is that we can assume that because we're the leader, we're the business owner, that employee or that person that we're working with or that client that we have understands completely who we are and what we believe and how we do it, when in actuality they probably don't. And so we need to be able to build that relationship to the point where, like I was saying about the person that I send things to review every now and then, I know they perform better when they have a timeline because they're very busy in what they do. And so they'll move me into wherever they have the time. If I get, in the next 2 weeks, they just keep putting it off. So as we wrap this up today, Robert, we talked about, the 4 elements of the team conversation, the coaching conversation, the delegation, the confrontation. What advice would you have for leaders and our listeners today as we close out 2023 and move?
Yep, I got 2 thoughts here I'll leave you guys with. First is, business is all about relationship. And so focus on how you have a relationship with your direct reports. The second thing that I want to leave you with this episode is, maybe your organization's a little bit bigger, and maybe you need to train your managers who have teams on how to have crucial conversations, fierce conversations. Share this episode with them. Let's give people the tools and the ability to empower them to be able to do the things that they need to do and be successful in their work. And that includes with delegating properly, with having those coaching conversations, with sharing vision, Vision is one of the things that if studies have shown that if you're not doing it every 4 weeks at a minimum, it gets lost. We forget about it. And so as often as you can with your team, share that vision, because that's when it starts to stick. That's when they start to see how they fit into the bigger picture. And so with that, I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and looking forward to the next episode.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
All right. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.